Call! Call! Should have called. Like, I always know what the right move is. Like, most of the time I know what the right move is. I almost usually know what the right move is. If you think you're ready to test your heads-up, no-limit Texas Hold'em skills to see if you're ready to compete with the best in the world, then you should check out Rad Poker. It is a free, fast-paced, no-limit Texas Hold'em app with only 6 seconds to act on every action and 1 minute raising blind levels. It forces fast-paced matches that last on average of 4 minutes. Download today and see how high you can get your rating to go. Hello world, and we are back. My name's Kyle Fischl, and this is going to be episode 71 of my poker vlog. Today I'm going to cover the February 1-3 meetup game. Happens at Orange City Racing and Card Club. 1-3 $10 straddle, and we do a $10 bomb pot every dealer change. It is definitely a fun table. On this particular day, they were doing a $500 high hand in a hand I did not catch on camera. I limped pocket sixes and flopped quads and got paid an extra $500, so always fun to get that rake back. In this episode, I 3-bet almost every single hand, so the pots definitely get big for a 1-3 game, but we're gonna get right into some hands. First interesting hand. An early position player raises to $25. I'm in middle position with ace-king. We are definitely gonna 3-bet this one. Absolute premium, build a pot, and get value if we connect. We raise to $65. Well, only the pre-flop aggressor calls, so we're going heads up to a flop of king 5 deuce rainbow. On this board, because it's so dry, we are definitely going to down bet, try to get called by his entire range. All pocket pairs from kings to fives, and worse kings and maybe some ace highs will call us. We bet $40. Well, the opponent calls, so we are heads up to a turn card, which is the ace of hearts. This is an absolute action killer. Like, if my opponent had any pocket pair, the second overcard really makes it so he can't continue. If he has a worse king, he might fold based on this card. But I suppose my opponent could have like ace 3, ace 4. If we're ever gonna have bluffs here, we also have to bet when we have the ace. So with that in mind, we bet $110. My opponent folds pretty quickly. He folds pocket queens. Kind of disappointing, but either way, we'll start out this session winning. Next interesting hand. An early position player limps. A middle position player raises to $14. I'm on the button with pocket eights. Definitely going to set mine for $14. Set mining can be extremely profitable, and playing on the button, there's plenty of boards we can bet on and steal it from our opponents if it's checked to us. The early position limper calls as well, so we are going 3 ways to a flop of ace king king. Kind of a interesting board. I think this favors the pre-flop aggressor heavily. Paired boards are pretty good for pocket pairs, but when it's this high, the pre-flop aggressor has so many aces that I probably can't continue if he bets. But when both players check to me, I think I can easily have a king here. The button, I can have king, queen, king, jack, all kinds of kings, as well as I can have weak aces that would play this way, and when checked to me would feel pretty good. I think I could bet this, get hands like jacks or tens to fold, and if I get called, maybe put in a second barrel and put in a lot of pressure on a weaker ace trying to rep a king. So I bet $20. Well, both players call, and when both players call, I'm fairly confident at least one of them has a king, so probably not gonna throw out a second barrel.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Well, when it's checked to me a second time, it is time to size up. If someone has a king, they will pay me. I may not be completely out of the woods, as I think ace king might play this exact same way. If they had ace king and flopped an absolute boat and they have the entire board locked up, they may check call, check raise on the turns. Even though I do think ace king is possible, we are not going to slow down, and if they have it, they have it. So I bet $70. The early position limper is the only caller. When the river is a complete brick, like the biggest brick ever, we are gonna go for it all. We think a king can easily pay us off. He's beating all aces that I might play this way, so we're gonna go all in for about 280. And my opponent doesn't think for too long before he does call and shows a king. Quite a favorable turn card there.
One, is dubstep still a thing?
Next interesting hand. With one limp, a middle position player raises to $15. I'm in the cutoff with pocket aces. We're definitely going to 3-bet this one. We make it $45. Well, both the limper and the pre-flop aggressor decide to call. So we're going 3 ways to a flop of queen 9-3 rainbow. So yes, it's a relatively dry board. I mean, if you have queen 9, you have queen 9. Otherwise, I should be good here 100% of the time. I bet 1/3 pot, $50. It folds to the pre-flop aggressor, and he decides to call this bet. The turn card is the ace of diamonds. Definitely an interesting card. If he had just a queen here, this might actually be an action killer. If he had queen 9, I got bailed out grossly. But when he checks to me, thinking that my opponent is one pair at best, and that's queen, I'm gonna go for the same sizing. Hopefully string him along a little bit and get some more value. I bet $50. My opponent does a very irritated looking side call, which looks very genuine, not like the usual fake, I don't know what to do, all in kind of stuff. He really looks like he doesn't like that bet. Is the 5 of spades. I don't really think a milky size is going to work here. I don't think 50 or 100 is really going to get paid all too often. So because of that, we're going to go full polarizing. Make it exactly what it is, nuts or air. I go all in.
That's got some zip.
Now, I would actually do this with Jack 10 and maybe King Jack, having straight draws, betting 2 streets, and then whiffing and still needing to go for it. So I actually do have some bluffs here, so the nuts or air polarizing jam actually makes sense. It can put my opponent into a position where they talk themselves into a call incorrectly. Because it's so goofy and doesn't make a whole lot of sense, often level themselves into a call. If you're ever going to go for big pot-sized bluffs on the river, you have to actually do it when you have it too. My opponent folds pretty quickly, saying he only had a queen, and I'd say story checks out. I don't really know if a queen should or can call 3 streets, especially when the turn to ace hits, so I'm actually happy with my line here. Please take a moment, and if you enjoy my content, hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Next hand of note. There is a $10 button straddle. There is one caller to me, and I'm in middle position with pocket jacks. I raise to $45. Definitely gonna size up here with jacks. Almost a premium, and we're likely gonna take this heads up in position like we've been playing all day. However, the button decides to call, and the limper calls as well. So we're going 4 ways to a flop of 8-3-3 2 spades. Pretty great board for pocket jacks. No one should really have a 3 here, and there are some spade draws that can pay me. Even like 5s and 6s may feel compelled to call at least one bet. But either way, we're going to size up here a bit, make spade draws pay to continue. We bet $100. The button calls very quickly, and this player is pretty tight, so I'm not too happy about that one. Before the early position player check raises to $375. Very difficult spot. Could this opponent have 4-5 of spades or ace something of spades? I think it's possible. I think pocket 8s don't make a whole lot of sense. I think you went too big with pocket 8s. But a hand that I think needs protecting a lot would play this exact line is just a random 3. 3-4, 3-5, ace 3, something like that. Pre-flop, he limped 10 and then called a 45 when 2 other players called. That seems like the hand where suited connectors, very low, can play profitably. So a random 3 is really what I put this guy on. And I have the player to act behind me to worry about as well, and he could be slow playing trips or better as well, so kind of a frustrating fold, you know, an overpair on this board. Well, when I fold, the button doesn't take too long before going all in, and the pre-flop aggressor calls the all in, so I could see a run out. And it turns out I was against ace 3 of clubs. My button opponent had pocket jacks as well. So I actually had 0 outs if I call there. Kind of an interesting hand, but you know, cheers to that player. He flopped good and did a pretty good check raise. Next hand of note. An early position player raises to $12. There's one caller, and I'm in middle position with pocket 10s. We're going to 3-bet this, try to get it to heads up. If not, we'll play tens. We raise to $40. Well, the button calls and both early position players call, so we're going 4 ways to a flop of Jack 7-3 2 diamonds. When it checks to me, only 1 overcard's not enough to make me not continue my line. I could have ace jack, I could have aces, kings, queens, I could have ace x of diamonds. There are a lot of hands that actually connect to this board that are well within my 3-betting range, so I bet $55. Well, the button calls and the small blind is all in for less. So we're heads up to an $8 side pot, all in the main. The turn is the 8 of clubs. Now with this specific turn card, as I double block the nuts of 9-10, and I actually gained 4 additional outs to a straight if my opponent does have a jack. Additionally, the specific opponent that still has money behind in this hand, he had recently just gotten stacked, so I highly doubt he'll be able to call some pressure with just 1 pair type hands. So thinking he might overcorrect and fold more, definitely gonna go for a big semi-bluff to try to get him off exactly 1 jack. So I bet $125. He thinks for a little bit and then folds, granting me the monstrous $8 side pot. And the small blind, who's all in after the river's an ace, says he has 5 high and pocket tens are good. So we win a pretty good sized pot there and things continue to roll smoothly. Next interesting hand. There is a $10 button straddle. 1 limp to me, I raise to $45. Well, in this hand, the limper and the button straddler decide to call, so we're going 3 ways to a flop of ace 7 deuce rainbow with 1 club.
You might want to start talking, because I got a long history of firing at times like this.
So again, pretty dream scenario if we're ever going to bet on ace-high boards with like pocket kings or random bluffs, which we do. We also have to bet on them when we have an ace and a good kicker. So we do our 1/3 size bet. We bet $50. And on this particular hand, everyone folds. And we win. 3-bet pre with 2 callers, flop an ace. Several hands like this can help build a stack. And, you know, we've built one nicely.
Well, no, you saw the 50, then it's like, I think he's going to get.
Next interesting hand. An early position player raises to $15, and we once again are going to 3-bet, this time with ace-king offsuit. We raise to $45. Only the early position raiser calls, so we're going heads up to a flop of ace jack 8. Pretty good board for me. When it's checked to me, kind of an overcorrection from the last hand where I got nothing but folds, I down bet even further, trying to get a crying call from a jack or an 8. I bet $25. Well, my opponent raises to 100, leaving himself only about 250 behind. The raise size is so big, it makes me feel like he has 10-9 or hearts or something like that. So with top, plenty of draws out there, and the fact that we're beating ace queen, ace 10, and I don't think he'd go this big with pocket jacks or pocket 8s. We're just gonna put him to the test. We're gonna go all in here. Well, he snap calls, so he clearly has 2 pair at least. I asked him if he has 2 pair, and he's got ace 8. Okay, I'll take a jack. Take a jack for a gross counterfeit. Hey, look, a queen. Now I need a 10, jack, queen, king, anything? No, we had nothing. Yeah. With that specific run out, if I just call and the turn card and queen, I think it's hard for my opponent to just jam into me there. If he checks to me, I'm 100% jamming on that turn card. And he may call, he may fold. Not sure, but based on that run out, we were likely getting the money in on that turn card anyway. So that was a hit. So a good way to recover from a hand like that is to pick up pocket kings. Well, in this particular hand, under the gun raises to 15. There's 1 caller before a middle position player raises to 85. I'm on the big blind, so be playing the entire hand out of position. So we're gonna definitely size this one up, try to at least get it to heads up, get a very narrow stack to pot ratio so we can jam on pretty much any flop that's not ace high. We bet $250. Well, in this hand, everyone folds and we win 115. We'll take it. So we are into the game for $700, out of the game for $12.18. That's a profit of $518 across 6 hours, which equates to $86 an hour or 28 big blinds an hour. That is not including the high hand. But if you watched all the way to this point, thank you. I appreciate it. Please consider liking the video. It helps me out a great deal. And I will see you all next week.